Hello and welcome to Aftersound Review, and this is my review for this T-Force Yuan. For maybe that you don't know about this T-Force, yes indeed this is a brand new IM, but I have seen a lot of hypes around it for people who have received it. They said that it is really good for around $100, and let's see, is it true? Okay, just like usual, I will review them from the build, fit, frequency response, sound, and comparison. By the way, they only cost around $99 and they are using single dynamic driver. As for the build quality for this T-Force Yuan, for me the housing itself feels really great. It's all metal and have some good weight on it, so it's quite durable for me, I believe. And take a look at this, it might be a little bit bulky if you take a look at it first, but trust me, it's not. It's just like a little brother from the 3i3. It's much more smaller, and also even the nozzle part is also metal, so for me the build quality of the housing feels really robust. But the cable itself, I don't really like the cable, even though it looks good. I bet it will the durability will be good, but it's a little bit on the springy side, so it's not really flexible. And also I believe this is copper, and yeah, other than that, for me the build quality for the housing itself is really good. This IM has amazing ergonomics for me, because take a look at this fit. You maybe when you take a look at this first, you might think that it's a little bit on the thicker side. Also, it's made of metal, so it might not really might not really comfortable, but let me tell you that it is 100% comfortable. Look at this, they fit perfectly in my ears. Oh my, wow, the fitting is so good. It's like a perfect shape for my ears. It's like made for my ears, really. So yeah, I could wear them for hours without any fatigue. And I should say maybe the cable itself is a little bit on the stiffer side, so it may be a little bit of complaint here, but it's just a minor complaint. But nevertheless, the fitting of the IM itself is amazing. Okay, for the frequency response of this T-Force Yuan, actually it really reminds me of the Harman-ish response from IMs like Moondrop Area or Moondrop kxxs, but with one major difference, which is the upper mid-range. This is the kxxs and this is the Area, who have actually similar frequency response, but you can see that the T-Force Yuan has more upper mid-range rise. So I believe that will make some of you will feel that Yuan could fall into category shouty mid-range. And after the upper mid-range raise, actually there's a roll off in the treble area, and also actually the sub-bass response is really similar, and I like the sub-bass. But yeah, for me the main Achilles heels for this Yuan might be this intense upper mid-range that could be shouty for some people. And here's how is it compared to Whizzer He01. The Whizzer He01, even though it has similar upper mid-range rise, but you need to take note there's more mid-bass and also lower mid-range around this area for the Whizzer He01. And after this mid-range rise, the treble rolled off on the Whizzer He01 is more rolled off, and somehow it's kind of balancing the whole signature of the Whizzer He01, giving it more natural vocal and not as shouty as it looks. Even I feel like the Whizzer He01 is still quite natural. Okay, I've tried to hear this Yuan using my kxxs 5K FX DSD, and also my iBasso DX160, and also my phone Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. And for me, this Yuan is somehow a little bit hard to drive, and I recommend you to try them using balanced connection and more powerful source to get the best out of them. Okay, let's talk about the tonality for this IM. Somehow, for me, this is quite similar to the most Harman neutral-ish IM such as kxxs and Oxygen, but imagine that you add more of the upper mid-range that makes the Yuan is the most shoutiest compared to the kxxs and also the Oxygen. Okay, for me, so I like the bass. I like I quite like the treble, but the problem here is the shoutiness of the mid-range that could get a little bit problematic for some people like me. Okay, but first I need to talk about the bass, which is maybe one of my favorite thing that I found is in this Yuan Li. For me, the bass could get really deep, and the texture is definitely high quality, and maybe one of the best that I could find at around $100. It could get really deep, it's quite fast, but the texture is to die for. It's really, you know, you get that punch, and it dig quite deep, especially in the EDMs or maybe some pop songs. You will hear a lot of bass quality in there, so it's a very versatile bass. And also talking about the beat range, maybe this is the Achilles heel for this Yuan Li. Even though it is forward, but sometimes it could get a little bit too intense for me. So when I hear some music like from Ed Sheeran or Ariana Grande, it could get shouty to the level that it's so intense, it's hard to hear for me. But if you hear well recorded smooth song like Joyce Chu, I don't feel the shoutiness here. But in the music like Ed Sheeran or Ariana Grande, try Galway Girl, try One Last Time from Ariana Grande, and you will hear what I mean. It could get a little bit too intense for me. So I really recommend you to try them, maybe using different tips. Maybe the Akusun AET-08 will help to control the shoutiness of it, but nevertheless it's still there. Okay, going to the treble area, for me the treble is actually rolled off. I don't really hear any cymbal crash forwardness in this IM, but here's the thing. When I hear music in some jazz song, when I hear cymbal or when I hear hi-hats, it's actually quite detailed on them. So I'm quite amazed. It's not really pushed forward, it's not really forward in positioning again, but the detail is there and the imaging is there as well. So it's quite good actually. And then talking about the technicalities, when I'm talking about the soundstage, it's like a medium ball. It's not really small or not really big either. It's not two-dimensional either. It's just like medium ball, so it's still quite good for live music and such music like that. But it's not grandiose or something like a small cinema like that. And the separation level and also detail is actually quite good. But sometimes I couldn't really get that kind of detail because I already overwhelmed by how shouty they are in some tracks. So yeah, I definitely need to find a way to tame down the shoutiness to get that detailed. But yeah, let me tell you, the detail level is actually quite decent. And let me compare them with this Whizzer He01 and also the kxxs. And the Whizzer He01 for me is much more laid back. It's more natural for me. I'm not saying this is a dark IM or very laid back either, but for me it's just much more laid back compared to this intense sounding Yuan Li. It is more controlled. The bass is not as punchy and also not as textured as this Yuan Li, but it's still quite punchy in this Whizzer He01. But the main thing that I prefer the Whizzer He01 more than this Yuan Li is the vocal. The vocal is much more sweet and also more well controlled. I don't find any shoutiness in this Whizzer He01, even though it's still leaning towards a thinner sounding vocal, but still it's much more well controlled. And hearing vocal or female or male, it's more balanced for me in this Whizzer He01. They both have some kind of rolled off treble, upper treble for me. It's not really, they are not really extended, but the treble detail is definitely much better on this Yuan Li. So talking about the technicalities, it's clear that Yuan Li is better, but talking about the tonalities, I could hear Whizzer He01 much longer because of how smooth and natural for me they sound. And compared to the smooth drop kxxs, I don't know why, but some people ask me to do it anyway, because the price is actually quite different. The kxxs is twice the price of Yuan Li, but for me, yes, it's quite interesting because here's that I found. Actually, the separation and detail level could be on the same level, but the kxxs is sound much more natural. It is much more sweet and much more balanced, so I could hear them better in this kxss, the detail. At this Yuan Li, even though I'm sure that it has a decent detail level, but because of that shoutiness, it's just so intense that I couldn't really focus on the detail, but I focus on the shoutiness. But in this kxss, even though it's not really detailed because of the tonality is more balanced overall, I could hear more detail in long time for this Moondrop kxss. Also, the soundstage is definitely more three-dimensional and larger on this kxss. So no matter what, for me kxss is still better. Yeah, the price difference is definitely there. So for my final verdict for this T-Force Yuan Li, the pros are: first, it has really great build and fit. Maybe at this price point, this is the best so far that I've ever tried. And then it has really great quality bass, and also it has quite good technicalities. But the cons is definitely about that shoutiness I find at the upper mid-range that could get harsh for sometimes, that it could overshadow that detail level that they actually have. And as I addressed this kind of issue to the Yuan Li with another reviewer, and then Yuan Li suddenly give us there's a revision about this Yuan Li, so it's not the final version. The final version will be a bit tamed down in the upper mid-range, and I'm really glad to hear that, because that's exactly the only point that I critique this Yuan Li, and I hope it will be great in the future. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this review for the first release of the T-Force Yuan Li, and see you next time. Bye bye.